Sometimes I'm not sure that I'm capable of doing something until I'm already doing it. We all have examples of that within our own lives. Things like acing that test, earning that promotion, or the one that truly terrifies and strikes fear into the heart of all of us adults, getting virtually anything done at the DMV. Oh gosh. But in all seriousness, at times these things can feel unattainable to us. But maybe they shouldn't. My name is Panise Oliai, and I'm here today to demonstrate to you why you're capable of more than you think. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, great. Another one of those motivational speeches that sounds so nice, but ultimately does nothing. But like you, I understand how difficult it is to summon the courage we need to achieve our dreams. And so today, I'm going to do something just a little different. Today, as a longtime student of psychology, I'm going to offer you a tool. We call this conceptual tool mind over matter, and I'm going to use it today to help you harness your very own power. Now, we'll be starting off with a couple of examples from that beautiful science of the mind that we call psychology. Next, I'll take you through the findings of those examples. Why does it matter that there's a connection between our minds and our bodies? What does the connection of mind over matter mean about ourselves, about each other, and about the world around us? And finally, I'll tell you about how you can apply the concept of mind over matter to your lives and the lives of those around you. Now, the first thing I need you to remember, and this is really important, don't let it go, is that mind over matter is absolutely everywhere. It is in our daily lives, in the air that we breathe and the light that we see. Don't believe me? Let's give it a shot. So, on the screen before you, you'll see what's an illustration of the Bezold effect, first coined by Wilhelm von Bezold. It's a pretty simple picture, isn't it? You have two main objects on the screen. One is a background. And as you can see, it is much darker on one side, my right, than it is on the left. It's a gradient. Easy peasy. In the middle of this background is a rectangular bar. And that rectangular bar also looks like a gradient. It is much lighter on my right side than it is on my left. It's an inverse of the background. Now, I know you're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. You're asking yourselves, why is she explaining this? I can see very clearly what's going on. But if you'll just give me a moment, I want you to look very closely at what happens next. Because when I remove the background, you'll see that this rectangular bar in the middle is actually one solid color. It's not a gradient at all. It is a solid shade of gray. Let's try that again. Now you see it, the gradient, and now you don't. All right, let's try something else out. This is another one that is very, very popular in terms of its fun cognitive illusion test. This is an illustration of the checker shadow illusion, coined by Edward Adelson. This is also a fairly simple picture. As you can see, there are two squares marked on this checkerboard. One is marked with the letter A, and the other one is the letter B. A, as you can see just as plainly as I can, is much darker than B. You can probably guess what I'm going to do next. If I just remove everything else, you'll see that A and B are the exact same color. To try that again, A and B, clearly two different shades, and all I've done is remove the background. Now, if your head is spinning and you're upset at me removing the background, I promise for this next one, I'll make it a little easier on you. For this next one, I'm not going to be changing anything at all. I'm not removing any context. You'll have the slide in front of you as long as you like. This next one is a particularly big favorite of mine. This is an illustration of the cafe wall illusion, talked about because it was first seen on the outside of a cafe wall. Simple picture, right? You have a couple of black and white squares alternating, and you have different rows of this pattern, slightly offset. The offset, I'll give you a hint, is what makes this illusion so much fun. As you can see, there's something just slightly off about this picture. All of the horizontal gray lines running through this picture are slanted. They're kind of wonky. They look like they're on the verge of running into each other. But if you look at each individual row, you'll notice that all of these gray horizontal lines are perfectly parallel. There's no slant to them at all. Zoom out for a moment, see the slants, and zoom in for a moment. Focus on one individual row at a time, and you'll see what I mean. What do all of these examples mean? Have I just brought you here today to show you how evil psychology is? To make you wonder why I'm making you question your perception of reality? I promise, there is no evilness of psychology involved. In fact, as such a beautiful discipline, psychology exists to show us why we have these cognitive illusions. I promise, this is no magic trick. I haven't secretly changed the lines while you weren't watching, and I certainly haven't changed any of the colors in this illusion. All I've done is show you how your own eyes perceive the world. Why would our brains do this to us? Is there something wrong with the way that we're seeing the world? Not at all. You see, a long time ago, it was vital to our very survival to be able to distinguish between one object and another. All of these tricks rely on the way that we perceive darkness and brightness, light, shadows, and of course, contrasts. Our brains rely on that because they help us to see and understand the world more quickly. And as you can probably imagine, the faster you can distinguish between one object and another, the likelier you are to survive. The faster you can figure out what is a threat to you and what is harmless, the likelier you are to get out of that dangerous situation. And so our brains have evolved this miraculous and incredible ability to quickly distinguish between objects, just to help us. Now, what you've seen today are a couple of perceptual illusions, but I'm going to take it a little step further. I'm going to talk to you about something that might seem fairly familiar, placebos. Now, you've seen some perceptual illusions. You know so far that your mind informs your reality, the way that you see things. But placebos are a fun little example of how your mind can change reality. For those of you who don't know, a placebo is a very simple concept. It is a treatment that actually has no medicinal or therapeutic value. In essence, it does nothing to your body. Few examples of this are some fake pills. They're often made out of sugar, fake injections, things like saline, and they even have fake surgeries where they put you under, but they do basically nothing to you. Why do these treatments exist? Well, there's this very fun phenomenon called the placebo effect. Pretty fitting name, huh? Psychology is good at those. But the thing about the placebo effect is this. If I have a raging headache and I'm in a lot of pain, and someone gives me a pill telling me that this is going to relieve some of my pain, I will take that pill with that expectation. And lo and behold, even if that pill is made of sugar, it will actually reduce some of the pain that I'm feeling. Remember, there's no medicinal or therapeutic intervention in this case. All that's happening is that my expectations are changing my reality. Quite literally. What happens when I take that pill is that I expect to feel better. And so what does my body do? It tries to match that expectation in my mind. My brain releases things like dopamine, a chemical that will help it to feel good. My body releases things like endorphins, a hormone that reduces stress and relieves pain. And before you know it, just like that, I am already feeling so much more healthy and optimistic. And in case you forgot, there was no medicinal or therapeutic intervention involved. All that happened was that I had a belief. That's all. I know, at this point, you're thinking, okay, placebos, cognitive illusions, I've heard of it all. But I'm going to give you one last psychological example that you might not have heard of. And this is the example of biofeedback. Now, biofeedback is this incredible intervention that psychology and medicine have constructed. Let's say that we have a patient, maybe someone in this room, who is experiencing a high heart rate. Their heart is going far too fast. That's dangerous. They want to lower that heart rate as much as possible, and they want to have it be an effective and quick treatment. The healthcare provider, in this case, can attach a couple of sensors and electrodes to the patient and hook those sensors and electrodes up to a device. The device will emit noises or lights or show a number on the screen that corresponds to the person's actual heart rate. So all this person is getting is some feedback about how their heart is doing. I actually did this exercise right before my speech with an individual who is also a speaker today. Because, people get anxious, even the best of us, and we need something to calm us down. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. But what happens next is something that the machine does not control at all. The patient is fully in control of their heart rate. They watch the screen, the numbers, the flashing lights, or they listen to the noise, the sound of their heart rate. And just by watching or listening and concentrating, they lower it. And it works. There is nothing that the machine is doing but just giving them feedback about their heart rate. Without even knowing it, the patient, listening to their real-time feedback, starts to relax their muscles. They start to control their breathing. And moreover, sometimes they even think positive or grounding thoughts. Again, in case you missed it, the machine has done absolutely nothing, but the patient's heart rate is lowered. The implications for this are astounding. Biofeedback can apply to lowering your temperature, or raising it, if you like. It also applies to your blood pressure, to headaches and migraines that you might have, and even to your brain activity. Just by concentrating on the real-time feedback that your body is sending out, you can actually change your physical health. Again, your body starts to match your expectations. If that's not an example of mind over matter, I'm not sure what else is. Because the truth is, all of these examples show how powerful your mind is at controlling you and your reality. It doesn't just change how you see the world, it changes the physiological reality of your body. That is incredible. When someone tells you, don't worry about it, it's all in your head, just relax, chill out, that phrase now has so much more meaning. It is all in your head. And that's the beauty of the concept of mind over matter. This puts the power back in the hands of the individual. But I know, at the same time, that you're wondering why this matters. You're asking yourself, why does it matter that I have a little bit of control over my head, or over my body for that matter? Why does it matter when there are so many more serious issues in the world that we find hard to address? In this life, we are in control of so little. At times, I despair about the things that I cannot control. I think about things like international politics, like violence, inequality, just to name a few. And when I start thinking about those things, even things like climate change, it is easy to lose hope. But the question of why does it matter can be answered basically within the very foundations that we've just talked about. It matters because I am one of the few things that I control in this life. And that applies to all of you. We might not be able to control much, but if we control ourselves, we control our perspectives, our expectations, and the way that we interact with other people, then we control much more than we previously thought we were ever capable of. Now, at times, again, you might be wondering how this comes into play. For me, just thinking about the concept of mind over matter has made it much easier to manage my life. And now I know a bunch of you sitting out there, students and professionals, have probably experienced the horrible, anxiety-inducing, debilitating, terrifying problem that is procrastination. It's exhausting, and you have to admit it. I see a deadline that's a month away, and I'm like, oh, great, that's a month away. I have plenty of time. The problem with that is that I relax, kick back for an entire month, and the night before something is due, I panic, I stress out, I start to cram and type out as much of that paper as I possibly can. It's unhealthy. And for a lot of us, in both of our academic and professional lives, it is a debilitating issue. But once I realized that mind over matter is a powerful enough concept to change the way we see things, I realized that it's all in my head. So all I really need to do to fix procrastination is to just, change my perception of reality. Easy, right? Like piece of cake. But the truth is, it does become easier when you think about the very power that you hold. What happens when you think about mind over matter is that you realize that you have power over your entire view of reality. And I use that to my advantage, and I hope you can too. What I did was set a couple of false deadlines. Sounds simple, right? That thing that was due a month from now is now due in a week. And man, if I can convince myself that that item is due so much earlier than I thought it was, then I will feel the pressure to complete it. I started making myself believe these false deadlines by plugging it into everything I came across. Planners, calendars, and even sticky notes. And once I convinced myself that something was due much earlier than it really was, I got started a little earlier. I saw that I was able to complete the things that I wanted to on time. Was I still a little stressed out? Maybe. Did I still rush to finish within that week? Sure. But it changed my life to such an extent that I can say that I'm a much less stressed out person now. I can focus on the beauties of life and enjoy the time that I have with friends and family and even just myself. All because of a minor change that I made while recognizing how powerful the concept of mind over matter is. Another way that the concept has helped me is by helping me look at the bigger picture. We all have this problem. Psychologists will often refer to it as catastrophization. Now, catastrophization is something that I think many of you will be familiar with. This notion that the moment something small goes wrong, you get a grade that you don't like on an exam, you miss out on an opportunity, or even you lose something that is a treasured object. You start thinking about the worst case scenario. Your mind starts going down the spiral of anxiety, and all you can think about is the horrible thing that could happen in the future. You think about the absolute worst that can happen, and it's agonizing. What hurts us even more is that the worst case scenario often doesn't happen. And so we waste time and energy and emotional burden just dedicating ourselves to thinking about the worst case scenario that is hardly likely. Catastrophization is a problem for many of us. But the way that we can reframe our reality comes into play even here. The question that I constantly ask myself when something doesn't quite go right is, how much is this going to matter? I start to stretch time in my mind. How much is this going to matter a year from now? Maybe a bit. Maybe I'll be walking around and thinking about, I really wish I had not missed that opportunity. That would have been nice. 5 years from now? Well, I don't know. I'll be starting on my career. I'll probably be thinking about, what I'll be having for dinner.